What's good, everybody? Back once again, and kind of, a dry season. Well, I guess a dry season, literally, for a lot of us during this whole summer, and all across the country as well. Hell, everywhere across the planet at this point. But specifically, the NBA. Um, Now, normally, after summer league, it's going to be dry anyway, because I'm like, you got about a couple more months until the season starts. I think they just dropped the schedule. Um, so it was always gonna be dry pretty much at this time anyway. But it's hella extra dry, mainly because we really had like free to see going and then just put to a halt, just stop, done. And that basically because Dame finally asked for a trade, pretty much at the top of like free agency. And I was like, most of the people were still like most of the people were signed that were really gonna get signed, but like the other smaller deals and how and like maybe some trades can't that's not gonna be done until the dang thing gets situated. And along with that, I was like, that being the thing, and where there's like the Blazers aren't gonna give it to the Heat, but everybody just like, well, the Heat's the only team. We also got James Harden over here, and he been doing his whole thing, but then he over here just came out and basically, just put a whole torch to Daryl Morey of being like, you're a liar, forever gonna be a liar. That's how you gonna be. Your mama know you're a liar, that kind of thing. And when Daryl Morey is like, okay, cool. I don't know what that you think that's gonna have to do, but you ain't going nowhere until I get what I want as well. So we're also at a standoff, stand still. The water ain't moving. I was like, ain't nothing turning the water. It's the other tide, whatever you want to say. Anyway, so I was like, then I think Austin River not too a couple months ago was like basically talking about Dame and how they trade, the stars being asked for trades, mess up the league. This is always like also a topic that most debate shows or whatever going to get into. I was like, a couple people been doing like videos on this, and so basically, one, I guess, is it bad for the NBA of star players asking out, and two, I guess, how to like why it is able to happen, and so what like I feel like it's obvious like why it's able to happen. Top player pretty much is like I want out, but I also don't understand too that it's like all right, cool, no, and I deal with that. Now granted, now I don't. I was like granted on how like your contract's guaranteed, but they could try to do things for you not to basically get paid, but it's very difficult. So while the GM's like, whatever, the owner paying that money, and it's like, look, we gonna have to get something here because I ain't about to pay this money and just be paying this money. So but I think it's weird when certain players are doing it. Like for instance, like when Ben Simmons had his thing, I didn't think Ben Simmons had the type of pool necessarily to get a trade. But I really think it's only because, speaking of, James Harden was available. Because I don't think if James Harden was available, Ben Simmons would have got traded. I think it would have went the whole year. Uh, I was like, somebody like Kyrie, I was like, I feel like that one happened mainly just because they wasn't going to sign him in the offseason. So you like, I got to get something for him. This ain't something where like the players like, I'm going to leave because like Kyrie didn't have that type of pool there. So therefore he can't be in the same situation of being like, well, you ain't going to get nothing for me. His market was at a spot where it was like, all right, cool. And it's like, hey, let's see if we could get something. Otherwise, you can have your contract run out and see how you do. but we the only one that can keep your contract and like the bird rights and all the other stuff in order to make sure you get more money, that kind of thing. James Harden, I feel like is at an interesting spot. He was able to do this in Houston because he was coming off James Harden time. Then with Brooklyn, he showed that he could be a different James Harden. So therefore, while still being James Harden, and I think that was able to work. Now I think he's sort of at the spot where it's like you're James Harden, but you're not James Harden. Like he could still go. Obviously, like they got the team got to basically to the second round, and didn't happen. But he showed that he could still put up numbers. He done changed his way of doing everything. Like where he became like a full on point guard. But you could tell like it all ain't there like how he was when he was in. Which I mean, of course not. He's older. That's what happens. But you're not gonna have the same demand. You ain't gonna have the same pool of being like, I don't want to be here, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. I don't want to do that. But as far as the first question of is it good for the NBA, I want to say I don't think it's a problem like how it was a problem when everybody was doing it at the very beginning. Because it was like 3 seasons in a row or something like that where it would just like they would just switching up teams, and to me that's a problem when pretty much every team is always so new in so many spots, and then I think that's sort of what creates the crisis of like for instance with the Celtics where it's like Brown and Tatum can't play, they gotta be broken up. And I think that's because since everybody was moving around, now teams are being broken up. Nobody stayed the court for that long. That you're like, they've been here too long. We gotta get rid of them. When it's like, no, you ain't got to. They get this close. You change the pieces around them, but you pretty much. But if you already know that this is a guaranteed lock, then why would you? There ain't no reason to bring them up. Kind of like like Paul George and Russell Westbrook. I was like. That only lasted like really like 2 years and it was like done, and it's kind of like it's like nah, that was a good team. That I was like the West is always pretty like stacked, but I'm like that could have still worked and you could have just moved a couple pieces around and probably like there wasn't enough time to be like okay, this ain't working. I get going to the Clippers and playing with Kawhi and that being the thing because of Kawhi coming off a championship, but I was like things just like break up where it's like 2-3 seasons and it's like over, and it's like well damn, there wasn't a time to see like once you start figuring stuff out, it pretty much the season's over and then you start for another season and you're like okay, maybe we move a piece here, all that matchup didn't go right, but we got a solid team. Nope, just throw them away, dart them off, change them. But I was like, I think it's on. I was like, we got a big one because the rant with the Phoenix, Kyrie move, like James Harden trying to move out here. But to be honest, I was like, I don't think it's bad as it was anymore because most people are staying on their team, and also too now that a lot of those players are getting older. Like you're gonna see I think a slowness to the movement. Like a lot of them dudes, Harden, LeBron, KD, Kyrie, I was like a lot of them are around the same age, so they're all in that same period of like gotta get myself a championship before my stuff is over. Whereas, like some of the younger people where I'm like, I don't think Luka's going to go anywhere anytime soon. I was like, Ja, I don't think he is either. I was like, I know the stuff like with Zion, but I was like, like a lot of these people aren't really going anywhere anytime soon. They're still so young, and I was like, then the only one I could think of maybe like Giannis or something like that. But I was like, most of these people, I was like, yes, they're going to try to get their contracts and whatnot. But I was like, most of them going to be towards the end by the time they're trying to move and stuff to where it's not that same type of movement. And to be honest, I really feel like the problem isn't really the player moving. It's really they get their contract, then they move. That's what I think is the real problem with this. Is like I'm like if I just sign a 5-year contract and then after the first year I'm like I'm out, then I'm like that's the part where I think everybody and people and all the other stuff have more of a problem than somebody trading. Because I was like for instance, like Paul George when he left from Indiana to go to OKC, he was really like on his last year or whatever, and he's like I'm not going to resign back. So and to me, I'm like that's really like yeah, devastating your player leaving, but he's helping the team out, being like, hey, I'm about to leave. I'm not staying here. Get something for me. I'm like, he's doing a solid for the team more than anything. But if you just sign like a 5-year contract and then in like the first year you're trying to bounce, that's sort of being like a dick with it. And guess what? A lot of people don't like is that. So I think that's really more of a problem. So now going back, with the James Harden, Dame Lillard, and all the other stuff, I think it's unfair for us to throw Dame in there. Like we're real, like I've seen a lot of people really throw Dame in there, and I'm like, he's been the one that's been with the team for nearly a decade. If anybody, he should be the one that we're like, yo, get out. And I was like, a lot of people was, and now it's just like the way he's done it, where he had to, where he was doing subliminals, and then he had officially asked out. Then now everybody's like, this guy. And I was like, I get it. That's like how we live, where everybody's like, topsy turvy or whatever. But his situation is not like Ben Simmons. It's not like Kyrie. It's not like James Harden. His situation is totally different, and he's a guy that I feel like he deserves to be like, it just ain't working. We gotta go. I was like, y'all done got a couple of my replacements here. Y'all got a couple guards here. We're gonna be crowded. There really ain't no thing. The young, there ain't really nobody young that's like already there, and y'all can't get anybody on like my age wave, length of like level of stardom and nothing. So I was like, whereas I'm like James Harden, I was like every time it's like, yo, this ain't doing so well, I'm gonna be out. Kyrie's like, I don't like this, I'm gone, and whatever Ben Simmons does. I was like, get your money. I was like, one cameo at a time, I guess. But I was like, I just think this is not fair for Dame to be looped into that. That's my whole thing. But anyway, I was like, that's just me and just this dry season of the NBA. But if you enjoy anything I had to say, or like, what's your thoughts on Dame should be included with them? Is he should, is he on a separate thing? I was like, do you think it's really a problem or it's not? I don't think it is. Maybe you're different. I was like, I understand how sometimes fans can get. But, like this, hey, that's fine. Maybe next time. But until then, peace. I'm out.